fishing hole. Grab your hat, get your pole. Let's go fishing when you're in the mood.
Canadian Sport Fishing, brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Ducket Fishing, pro-driven. J&RMachine Electronics, J&RMachine, simply superior. Pro Sports Boats, tame the waters. Welcome to beautiful British Columbia. You see behind me, we got a beautiful mature forest. We're standing on a small tributary that goes into a bigger river, the famous Kitimat River. And we drove about 20 minutes from Kitimat Lodge. And this morning, we've got a drift boat adventure. So this is what a drift boat looks like. This is the anchor at the back. The drift boats have a flat hull, so they can go over very shallow water and even trees that are in the water. We don't have our rods set up yet because we got to get the boat in. And they might be a little bit challenging this morning because we had rain yesterday and the river went up a little bit and then the water level dropped, which is great for fishing. But where we got to go through this short tributary to the main one, we're going to have to really work the boat around some shallow water areas. You know, we've got conditions that we didn't expect today. The river's a little bit dirty because we had lots of rain yesterday. So even though we started with the drift boat and the water was clear, in that little tributary, the main river's pretty dark. This is a nice little humpy. I'm rigged up with just a small float and then a marabou jig underneath. You know what? They're beautiful fish. Come here. Oh, look it. Isn't that a unique looking fish? You've got that stripe and then that large humpback. Just amazing. And because we're using barbless hooks, that should come right out. Just need to get my hand underneath. There. Look it. Beautiful pink. There he goes. So we've tried a variety of lures, but when the water's discolored, the way it is in the main river, the fish are more interested in running up, especially the fresh run fish, than holding in the pools and striking some of our baits. Be fun with a light fly rod when you have fish like that all holding in a small area. They love pink, that's for sure. I think every one that I've caught so far is a male, which is kind of interesting. Wonder where all the females are. Come here, come on. Just trying to get them by the tail. There, so I can get that hook out. A whole bunch of them in there. Closed captioning is brought to you by K100. We make water burn. It's interesting that the way they're hitting, they're taking the jig always with the snout. Here, let me show you a close-up of this jig. This is called a twitching jig. So I'm just trying to, that fish kind of smacked it all around. I'm going to wet it a little bit so that it hangs down right. So this is called marabou, and you can see this is like a hot pink color, and then this is a strip of rabbit fur, and it's got a pink head with, this is called an aspirin head because it's kind of the shape of a big aspirin with the eyes on both sides. So that's what's doing the trick. It's a really good setup. And because we're fishing in this little eddy, I only have it set down shallow because I want them to come up and smack it. But all of them have been hooked right in the snout, which is interesting. It's just the way they're coming up and grabbing it. I just missed one again. Try casting it out there. You can see that watercolor. If you look, it's that murky color, and then it blends in with this little stream that's coming in that's a little bit lighter in color. So a lot of them are right on the edge and on the inside in this little stream. You know, this is kind of like fly fishing with the center pin because I'm using my hand to provide the drag system because it's on free spool. But these pinks won't take out line, so they're real thrashers. playing with little fish. There, look, right in the snout at the top. Come on, there. Lots of energy for little fish. They're probably the fish that's the most abundant in these tributaries. In some cases, they're in the millions that come up. So they're very important for the ecosystem. See if I can get another one on right away. Just casting over there. All of the Pacific salmon, when they finish spawning, die. So it's the end of their life cycle. But it's kind of neat because everything relies on them in the ecosystem for nutrients. So their flesh doesn't go to waste. Oh, there's one. Feels heavier. This is just a bigger pink. Nice head shakes. You can see why they call them humpies. See if I can get this guy in close. Grab him by the tail. Oh! Here, I'm gonna kneel down so you get a good look at him. So I can put that reel underneath my arm. The last thing you want to do is put your reel on the beach where the sand is. Isn't that a gorgeous fish? And you can see that jig just in the snout again. Man, he's got a big hump. These guys are so much fun. This guy's a handful. And look at that jig right there. You know, when you consider that these guys have normal body shapes, and this is like a metamorphosis when they get this big, look at, I've got my hand there, it's huge, that big hump, and it all has to do with their mating ritual and spawning, and then of course, they die. Look at, what a gorgeous fish. I'm just gonna let him out slowly. He'll take off. Wow. J&RMachine Electronics. J&RMachine, simply superior. Here on the West Coast, these floats are very common. It's styrofoam. I'm not sure if they call it a dink or something like that float, but what I've done is taken the piece of plastic tubing and put it in the center to make it a slip bobber, because a lot of them have the hole, but you wrap the line around once or twice, the float, and it goes through the hole at the bottom, and when you slacken your line, you can move the float up and down, and when it's tight, it stays there. But in my case, I've got it rigged as a slip bobber. Let me just put this in front of the rod. You can see I've got a swivel here to stop the float from going down, and I've got about 12 inches, 13 inches to the jig. So my whole idea is that when I pull up on the line, so if the float is there, that's at the maximum height. When I pull up on the line, you can see the jig come up. So that's the reason I'm using a slip bobber, so I can actually work the jig and swim it. And it works extremely well. So I'm going to make another cast out there. Make sure my rod is all connected here. Man, that wind is starting to pick up and it's a little cool. Just get this all straightened out here. And let's see if there's another one over there. Just close to the bank. The nice thing about the center pin is that you can control how much line when you're casting. You just stop it with your hands. So there I go. That's where I'm pulling the jig up through the float. And when that float goes under, I know that the fish has the jig in its mouth. Oh, there we go. Ooh, nice release. That float just shot up. So this is real time, you know? You're talking about live to tape this action with these fish. Just missed one, even when my float hit the water. Let me see here if I can work it again. This is a lot of fun because it's so interactive because you're watching your float, and when the float goes under, you know you have a fish on. Because it's barbless though, sometimes they get off. Right back by the bank. There must be a little bit of a trough over there. That's why they're holding there. There we go. I could do this all day long. And the scenery is beautiful. Even though we've got rainy conditions, I'm looking left and right and there's beautiful mountains with this valley and these little tributaries that's full of these pinks and even the main Kitimat. Beautiful. Yeah, I can't imagine, you know, coming here with kids where they can get like all these pinks and have a chance of getting some nice cohos. Look, it almost looks like that jig is almost in the same spot with every fish. There. Beautiful. Yes! Okay, there. And look, isn't that gorgeous? They're so slick and so clean. They've got really tiny scales, so you almost don't feel anything when you hold on to them. I think they're beautiful. Look at these things. Don't they look neat? Can you believe that I caught all my salmon today on these jigs? Now, they're not just ordinary jigs. They're actually made for steelhead and salmon fishing. They're called twitching jigs, and one of the best colors was this pink color right here. So the jigs are kind of neat because they're ½ ounce in weight, so they drop very quickly. And even though I was using the jig underneath the float, I wasn't letting it touch the bottom. I was actually pulling my float so that the jig would be doing this, going up and down through the water column. I find that jigs that are made out of a really lifelike material work best. So this right here is called marabou. You can see that it's two colors, pink and green. And then there's one strip. This looks like leather here. That's actually a strip of bunny fur that's been dyed green in this case. So some of the best colors are pink, purple, black, even this peach color, because when eggs, you know, go down the river from other spawning fish, they look a little bit pink or orangey in color. So this color works well as well. And I think that the eye on the front of the jig head really attracts the fish to zero in on it and hit it. Now you have to understand that these salmon that are in the rivers aren't feeding anymore. So they're really preoccupied with finding their mate and starting to spawn. But one thing that they do is they react to something that looks like food because they were feeding so much when they were in salt water. I call the term imprinting because they're imprinted in seeing something pink that looks like a shrimp or something else that they'd like to eat. And even though they're in the river and they're no longer feeding, they'll still strike it. Another female, very interesting. Earlier I was getting all males, And now they seem to be females. So I've got a feeling that these pinks are literally staging here off the main Kitimat River. They're just coming into this smaller tributary, and this fish hasn't spawned yet. I don't think any of the ones that I've caught here have. There. Oh! Yeah, they're tough to hold on to. There, gone. See if I can get another one here. Rod Runner Canada, grab and go fishing. You know, it's nice here on the west coast when you're fishing at Kitimat Lodge that if the main river is blown out because the water's too high from rains, and of course rains are common here in the coastal mountains, you can find these smaller tributaries that go into the main river, and you can find some water that'll hold fish that will hit. So it's nice. We're just working it. This is one that I've never fished before. Conditions look good, so we'll see if we can get maybe some pinks. We're really trying to get some cohos. Yes! Now we're fishing a bit bigger tributary that goes into the main Kitimat. And this one's holding pinks too. You know what? For being small salmon, they sure are scrappy. I think it's probably because of their wide bodies. This looks like another male. And he's using the current to his advantage. You try walking up a little bit. I'll tell you what, that pink jig is the ticket. Gorgeous fish. Come here. Come here. There. Look it. Isn't that gorgeous? They're such beautiful fish. And that jig again, right in the snout, just fell out. Look it. What a beautiful sight. There. You know, I'm having a lot of fun with this center pin. It's probably one of the simplest reels you can use. Look, if I take my hand off it, see the way it's free spooling? If I put the lever that's here back, then I'm into my drag, so it locks into position. So when I'm casting, that's the clicker that you can hear from it being with the drag on. Right now I'm in free spool. So all I do, it's very simple to cast out. And I like them because there aren't a lot of things to go wrong with them. They're built really well. And I'm holding the line with my hand and reeling in with my left hand. And if I get a fish, I lock the spool with my right and I fight the fish out. And that last one grabbed it really nice. That float just shot under. You might be wondering why I'm using such a long rod. You know, when it comes to drifting, even though I'm drifting a float and a jig, you know, a lot of guys, especially in the Great Lakes, will use the drift rods for drifting roe, eggs, imitation eggs, and flies underneath the float. The long rods help you to cast, but also if you're using light line, the longer rod gives you more torque. This guy's got lots of energy. Nice male again. So much power. Beautiful. Okay, I'll lock the reel. See if I can slide him towards me. There. I try not to get my reel wet when I'm fishing, but I'm in a little bit deeper water now. Look it. Isn't that a gorgeous pink? Beautiful. That jig is right in the roof of the mouth. Should pop right out. I'm fighting the current. See if I can do it this way. If he flops out on my hand, it's okay. I'm going right into the cartilage. Come on. This is going to be interesting. There we go. Whew. You know what? That's very refreshing. There. The boys are watching me. Benjamin Rubini and our guide is back at the drift boat. I think they got tired of hooking fish. And here I am having fun. Can't get over how big the mouths of these guys are, especially the males. So beautiful. Sometimes when they turn and swim at me, I see their yaps, huge mouths. You can see, look at that. Look how big that mouth is. You can see how they can grab those jigs. Huge. Let's see if I can walk them up here. Yeah, you don't want to put your hands in their mouth. Like, can you see, look how wide that mouth is? And just grab them here. Come on. Be a good fish there. And come on, pop out of there. There. See the size of their mouth? How they open? Look it. Isn't that a pretty fish? I think they're beautiful. And there it goes. It's nice that this rod also has a fighting butt that I've been putting under my arm below the reel. Because when you're using a long rod like this, it's a lot of leverage. And I've been casting all day. I'm not complaining. I love it. But it's a workout. You got to have pretty strong wrists and arms. Gorgeous. Just can't get over how great these fish are in this beautiful scenery. Will he hold for me? Or are you going to take off? There. I'm telling you, these fish are like in perfect condition. They're amazing. You know, while most people go for the silver cohos, I don't mind getting these when the conditions aren't right for the silver cohos. Man, that was awesome. Canadian Sport Fishing, brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Ducket Fishing, pro-driven. J&RMachine Electronics, J&RMachine, simply superior. Pro Sports Boats, tame the waters. So if you can see, it almost looks like a topwater lure. I'm kind of swimming it in towards me. There, I had a fish on there. And what it's doing, that jig, that's pretty heavy, it's a 1/2 ounce jig head, is just swimming along the bottom. I'm gonna toss it back out there.